What is up, people? Matt here. So it was requested that I do a Espada video, obviously relating to Bleach, so I thought I'll do an Espada video. It was actually quite a good idea, so thank you for recommending that. Now, the person that recommended this didn't specify how he wanted me to rank them, because the power ranking for the Espada is quite messed up. I didn't really think that would be an appropriate way to rank them. It'd also be a fairly boring way to rank them, I feel, so I thought I'd just do kind of my favourite to least favourite. Now it's going to be a top 12. You might be asking why it isn't top 9 or top 10. Well, I'm going to pretty much do every Espada, including Neliel, and ones that were only Espada for a very short while. So I guess I should probably just get on with the list. So at number 12 is Septima Espada Zomi Reruex, whatever his name is. So obviously he was the 7th Espada. Why is he right at the bottom of my list? I just don't think he was a very interesting character whatsoever. Just not much happened with him really. Byakuya killed him, that was about it. Not very interesting whatsoever. So his Zanpakuto was Brujeria, and his aspect of death was intoxication, which is quite interesting. There's not a lot to say about him, to be honest, because I just didn't find him interesting whatsoever, and that's actually why he's right at the bottom of the list. So number 11 we've got the Octava Espada. So number 8 Xylopro Grans. I'm really not a fan of Xylopro either, to be honest. I just found him really annoying, and his fight with Mayuri and Renji and Uri was a bit shit, to be honest. He doesn't really do any fighting whatsoever. He just kind of has tricks up his sleeve, a bit like Mayuri, and just fucks people over that way. Which is a bit wrong. The only thing I pretty much enjoy about him was how he got killed. I mean, he had like he got that potion injected into him, which slowed down time for like hundreds of years, which is a bit crazy. So his Zanpakuto is Pharnicarus, and his aspect of death is madness, which makes sense because he's totally fucking mental. But that's all I want to say about Xylopro as well, really. So at number 10 we've got, I suppose you could say, the former Sexta Espada, Lupi Antero. 6th Espada, obviously. Obviously he's the former Espada, even though Grimmjow was the former Espada, but because Grimmjow's, I guess, the current one, even though he's not now, but whatever. So anyway, Lupi. Again, Lupi's another one I don't care about a lot. Pretty much half this list I really don't care about them. It's only when you get about halfway through they start getting a bit more interesting, I think. Lupi wasn't around much at all. In fact, he was the first Espada to be killed, and in a pretty pathetic way, to be honest. Grimmjow just got his arm healed, and then he just fucking blew Lupi in half, and that was the end of it. His Zanpakuto's Trepidor with the tentacle shit, which was pretty freaking weird. And his aspect of death is, I assume, destruction. But Lupi's aspect is never actually mentioned, but I'll get into that a bit later on, why I think it might be destruction. So at number 9 we've got the Cerro Espada, number 0. Also number 10, Yami Largo. Not a fan of Yami, he's a bit of an idiot. His Zanpakuto is obviously Ira, and his aspect is Rage. Yami's a bit of a weird one, because when you first meet Yami, you really do think he's just pathetic. He doesn't do shit. He's just a big meathead with strength. It gets a bit weirder later on, because he can actually change his power level, judging by how angry he is, which is why his aspect is obviously Rage. and he actually becomes apparently the strongest Espada. I don't think that's true. If at his strongest, Kenpachi and Byakuya could kill him, I don't think he's the strongest Espada, to be honest. So at number 8, we've obviously got the Quinto Espada. So number 5, Noitora Gilga. Now, Noitora, I'm really not a fan of him, but I put him above all the others because I don't even really care about them at all. Noitora is one of those. Noitora actually annoys me because he's like, oh, I'm going to kill everyone no matter how weak they are. It's a bit of a dick move. Especially when you find out that Noitora actually basically fucked Nelly up, and in a bit of a cowardly way as well. It's just like, what the fuck are you doing? Obviously, Noitora's Zanpakuto is Santa Teresa, and his aspect is despair because he's like, oh, despair. He's a bit of a downer, really. The best thing about Noitora was his fight with Kenpachi. That's it, really. It's just fun to see Kenpachi and Noitora beat 2 tons of shit out of each other. Other than that, Noitora just does me head in. I don't like him as a character, really. So now we're getting on to the ones that I don't mind too much. There are a couple more that I'm not really bothered about, but then we get onto the ones I actually kind of like. So at number 7, we got the Senguta Esparta, Barragan, Louise and Byrne. Obviously the second Espada apparently, and his Zanpakuto is Arrogante, and his aspect is aging or time, that sort of thing. Now Barragan is actually, well, he was formerly the king of Waco Mundo, but then Aizen came in and kind of fucked everything up, and he was just... But what I can't understand is, if he was the king of Waco Mundo, why the hell isn't he the first Espada? But then it makes sense because I'm assuming the rest of these guys weren't around when Barragan was, so obviously he was obviously the strongest at that time. And apparently when Coyote Stark came about, Barragan got bumped because apparently he's not strong, which is a bit weird, but you know, whatever. So at number 6 we got the Tres Espada, Tia Haribel. Tia Haribel is presumably the current ruler of Waco Mundo, although she got captured. So is she still the ruler or not? Who knows? Her Zanpakuto is Tiburon, and her aspect is apparently sacrifice. Now her aspect is sacrifice, but there's another person who I'll get into later on, and why I think they share that same aspect. Tia is an alright Espada. I think she got a bit misrepresented in the fights. She was fighting Toshiro. I think she genuinely would have beaten Toshiro, but then Aizen came along and fucked her up. So, I mean, who knows how that fight could have gone down, but I'm pretty sure she would have beaten Toshiro in the end. So, number 5, we've got Noveno Espada. So, the 9th Espada. And I'm probably going to totally butcher this name, so I apologise if I do, but we've got Aaroniero Arueri. Aaroniero, obviously, I put him so high up for one simple reason. He kind of takes on the identity of Cayenne, and Cayenne is one where he's not one of my favourite lieutenants, but he actually did make it into my top lieutenant list. I really do like Cayenne. In fact, he could even kind of be higher on that list now than when I made it. I thought it was really interesting. Obviously, this was the first time we actually got to see Cayenne's Zanpakuto released, Nejibana, which is actually pretty fucking cool. It's a shame. I think it would have been interesting if they kept him alive, Aaroniero, but at the same time, it really wouldn't have worked, because if they had kept him alive, fucking Rukia would have died, and that would have made a whole shit ton of problems for the series. But yeah, Aaroniero, so his Zanpakuto was Gluttoneria. Obviously you can already see glutton in that, and his aspect is greed. The reason, now interesting fact, Aaroniero is actually, technically he was the weakest Espada to become an Espada. So before he became an Espada, he was actually only a Gillian rank hollow. And then because he fed on so many other hollows and gained so many powers from Soul Reapers also, he ended up becoming strong enough to be an Espada, which is mental. But he was still kind of one of the weaker Espada. You know, he wasn't like up there. He was the 9th. But that was quite interesting, I found. Now, presumably the reason why Aaroniero took on Kyan, it could be because he wanted an advantage against fighting against Rukia, or it could have been maybe Kyan was the strongest person he absorbed or ate or whatever. It's totally possible. So number 4 we've got the Prima Espada, number 1 Coyote Stock and Lynette Gingerbuck. So Coyote Stock's weird because he's apparently was the strongest Espada, which makes sense, but at the same time it's hard for me to think of him as being actually the strongest, although he is, you know, he gave Shunsui a run for his money. But Shunsui Shikai beat the strongest Espada. Alright then. If that's how it goes, that's how it goes. Obviously Coyote and Lynette's Zanpakuto is Los Lobos, and their aspect is Solitude, which kind of makes sense because they were, well, Coyote was on his own and then he kind of made Lynette because he split himself, so he had someone else, which makes sense. Coyote is one of the few people in Bleach to actually use guns. He uses Cero guns, which is pretty cool, which are actually Lynette. So, you know, there you go. Someone turns into a gun. Guns, which interesting. So I guess we'll get on to the top. We're on the top 3 now. So these are kind of my top favourite Espada. They're pretty commonplace normally when people rank the Espada, so I'm sorry for being obvious or mainstream or whatever, but these are generally my favourite. So at number 3, fittingly, we got the Tres Espada, or the current or the former Tres Espada, Neliao Tudosvank, or Nell. So obviously Nell's Zanpakuto is Gamuza, and her aspect I presume is Sacrifice also, because I'm presuming, because Tia and Nell share the same rank Espada, the Tres 3 Espada, I'm presuming they both have the same aspect. I'm presuming Nell had it first and then Tia came along and took over the aspect. I don't know if that's the case or if Nell doesn't have an aspect, but I'm pretty sure they just share the same aspect. Yeah, Nell's one of my favourite Espada, to be honest, although she's not technically an Espada now, although maybe she is because the rest of them are dead pretty much. I don't know how it works, but I really like Nell. I definitely think she was underrepresented in the series, but to be fair, I don't think they could have kept her going after the fake Kurakara Town arc, because there's no way she would have been walking around in the Serite, although she could have done, who knows. But yeah, I really like Nell, to be fair. So now we're on to the last 2. So we've got the Quattro Espada, number 4, Ukiora Schiffer. His Zanpakuto's Murcielago, and his aspect is Emptiness. Now a lot of people always pretty much have Ukiora right at the top of their favourite Espada. I don't want to be offensive, but a lot of the time it's fangirls, because for some reason a lot of people find Ukiora really hot. I don't know what that's all about. It's maybe because he looks a bit like an emo Light from Death Note or whatever it is. I don't know how that works, but you know, if you like that sort of thing, you like that sort of thing. Good on you. But Ukiora Schiffer. Now this is where it gets controversial. A lot of people say Ukiora is actually the strongest Espada, and I actually probably agree. I think in his second release, he probably is the strongest Espada. I know he could easily beat Yami in his second release. He'd just fuck him up. So obviously he's the strongest, I presume. and Ichigo beat him, so that means Ichigo technically beat the strongest Espada, but Ichigo kind of cheated because he went into kind of full hollow Ichigo and fucked him up, and then they never fought again because Ukiura was too badly wounded and just fucking disappeared into dust and died. So there you go, that was the end of Ukiura really. But yeah, Ukiura, I really like him. I didn't used to like him, but he slowly started going up the rank, because let's face it, half the Espada are pretty shit. So Ukiura's, you know, got to be there up the top. So number 1, obviously it's the only one I haven't actually mentioned, and it's obviously, I'd probably say the fan favourite. Interestingly enough, he's actually come back in the manga just recently, last chapter, which is pretty fitting. But yes, my number 1 favourite Espada is the current Sexter Espada, number 6, Grimmjow Jagajax. Fucking love Grimmjow. Interestingly enough, before I even watched Bleach, I actually saw a picture of Grimmjow and I thought, who the fuck is that? I thought he was going to be like the main villain, and then it turned out Aizen was the main villain, and I thought, who the fuck's this guy then? And then he turned up and I was like, oh shit. So Grimmjow's Zanpakuto is obviously Pantera. Takes inspiration from Panther, because I assume he becomes a Panther in his transformation, resurrection. His aspect is destruction, so that's why I presumed Luffy's aspect was also destruction, because they both share the Sexter position. Grimmjow's a very weird one, because you'd think he would be higher up on the Espada, because he's not even in the half. He's actually in the bottom half of the Espada, which is a bit weird. But I mean, Grimmjow was a bit, I think he got a bit unfairly treated, because he beat Ichigo to shit when they first met. And then Ichigo kind of beat him, and then Grimmjow was fucking about with Ukiura, and then Ichigo beat him again, and then Noritora just totally fucked him up, even though he was already fucked, which is a bit shit. And then that was it pretty much. He didn't really see him again. Obviously nowadays we don't know how strong Grimmjow is. He could be a fuck ton stronger. He could be the strongest Espada now, for all we know. But yeah, those were my top 10 favourite Espada really. So as always, thank you for watching this video, and I'll definitely see you on the next one. Bye now.